in between this Gabriella, which was my billionaire persona, and my call the agency and usually next day go and see it and take a picture of the view. And so really for 3 months I was living in between this Gabriella, which was my billionaire persona, and myself back and forth on the A line from Brooklyn to Manhattan.
My name is Daniel Rosenstein. I've worked in real estate for 4 years. I met Andy 2 years ago when she was infiltrating New York's most exclusive properties. I was doing Airbnb in my apartment in the Upper West Side.
And first I remember that he asked me, what are you doing in New York? And when he said he's a real estate agent, I was actually a bit hesitant to tell him what I came here for.
She told me that she was making a book. So I think at first I was like, oh, is she mocking our profession? I'm just a pawn in your project here. And then the more she was talking about it, the more I saw her point of view, which is almost nobody has access to these apartments. You have to go through a doorman, you have to reach out to a real estate agent. It's not a normal real estate market where you can show up to an open house. She asked a few questions, I think how to navigate getting into buildings. I told her to use the term, we're looking for a pied-à-terre or second home in the city. A lot of really wealthy people look for second, third, fourth, fifth homes, and she at that point had essentially created her whole persona.
Gabriella is my actual middle name because at the beginning I didn't know if they would check my passport ever. And actually at some of the properties they did check it. And I remember back then I got really obsessed by many of these small details, that I need to do my nails and I need to have proper shoes, proper bag. In order to do this project, I needed to bring my camera and photograph the view. This made me obviously very unusual in the eyes of the agents, but I also realized that the stranger I act, the more convincing it is that I'm actually a billionaire and I just don't give a shit. I was really, really nervous at this very first viewing. The agent started to ask me if I have a chef, if I have a nanny, if we have private chauffeur. So I just randomly answered yes and no. And all of these answers kind of became part of what Gabriella was.
Tell your husband every morning that this is really where you want to be.
There are a few different types of agents. There are the ones who are kind of like very natural and just showing you, here is the kitchen, here is the bathroom, this is the price. And there is the complete other end of the spectrum.
You will feel Gabriella. It is like going on a journey from the sidewalks of 19th century old New York to the sidewalks of Florence.
I actually might just prefer the 21st century.
So imagine your daughter running around saying words in Hungarian.
It was really hard to kind of like keep a straight face in those viewings. I mean, it was like really bizarre what they were telling me.
Sit down, Gabriella. It really is a moment for you. Just tell your husband he loves you and he wants you to be happy. I'm sure he will not say no to you if you let him know this is really your first choice.
Because this ultra-luxury segment of the real estate is actually now not really going that well. The newer the development, the crazier the amenities they have, because there's really this like huge competition. One of the things that became an absolute standard for these buildings is the golf simulator room. Michelin-starred private restaurant in the building, theater, swimming pool obviously.
Equinox gym, they have children's playroom, a billiards room, a conference room, and everything in between.
In one of the penthouses, it was that they would give you a yacht as a present when you buy the apartment, a yacht.
So you mentioned the number of people who are actually living in poverty according to the federal poverty numbers. But we all know living in New York, it's a whole different ballgame.
The average rent across the city has returned to nearly pre-pandemic levels.
We built fewer homes in the 2010s than in any decade going back to the 1960s.
I think the way poverty is usually portrayed is from the bottom. So you talk about homelessness or you talk about people who cannot afford housing. I think when you see it from this like very top of the sphere, it somehow is also very telling. The buildings that you can see from every single corner of the city are these ultra luxury real estate, which are not accessible for anyone really. Apartments and buildings are standing 60 to 70% empty.
Commercial and residential wonderland featuring some of the city's tallest buildings and most expensive restaurants and condos.
If you are looking to call Steinway Tower home, studios start at $7.7 million.
Listen, you know, not to be not sympathetic to the homeless, but if you live in 157, you're paying millions of dollars to live there. Do you want a homeless shelter in your building? I don't think so.
We are not building enough housing for everybody who needs a place to live.
Here's what it's like living in the smallest apartment in New York. Wherever your expectations are, lower them.
So these buildings are kind of really soulless in a sense. They are super standardized.
The trends that I see in these properties are a lot of the same finishes and materials used. Some of the floor plans are the exact same. I think it's a really challenging task to create something different when you're working with essentially the same floor plan, which is a tall square or a rectangle in the sky.
Oh wow, who was the interior designer?
Deborah Burke. There is no one better in design at the moment.
So you have always just some very special type of marble in the apartment that the agents would always highlight.
The marble is Siberian, which is now the best on the market.
Then you would have the oak floor, which is always the best type of oak floor. And there's like really nothing that would make any of these buildings stand out, to be honest. But it's not really surprising when you realize that it's solely a form of investment, most of the cases. So it's really not about living, and it's not about having a soul. And it shows. It's really obvious when you are there. One of the most striking things was how agents are trying to always go out of